Okay, let's dive in. We've managed to get our hands on, well, a single but truly massive acquisition document.
Mm-hmm.
It's FA 865226R0001, and it's from the Air Force Research Laboratory, the AFRL.
And this isn't, just routine paperwork. You have to see this as a strategic blueprint.
Absolutely. It establishes something called the Air Force Research Laboratory Multiple Award Contract.
Or AMAC for short. And you can almost think of it as AFRL building a brand new super agile highway system for all their future R&D work.
A highway system. I like that. And the mission statement in here, it's laid out and it is incredibly ambitious. So what is the core goal of this AMA?
Well, the goal is to provide a streamlined, agile, and this is the key word here, rapid acquisition vehicle.
Rapid.
Right, for unclassified science and technology, or S&T, across the entire spectrum of AFRL's technical needs. The whole point is to just advance the state of the art for the Air Force and the Space Force and to do it faster than anyone else.
Speed is the critical ingredient.
It is.
So let's talk about the structure. You mentioned it's an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract. Now, for anyone who's not familiar, that term, it always comes with a big financial asterisk, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
When you see IDIQ, the first thing you need to know is that AMAC as a vehicle, it doesn't actually have specific funding tied to it. Not yet.
Okay.
Think of it more like opening a huge institutional credit line for S&T.
So the funding comes later.
Exactly. It'll flow in later through individual task orders, and it depends entirely on portfolio funding from AFRL and maybe other agencies. It's an enormous commitment of potential spending.
And there's also a very specific guardrail built right into the definition here that I found really fascinating. What is explicitly excluded from AMAC?
Yeah, they're drawing a very sharp line in the sand. This contract vehicle will, and they state explicitly, not be used for consulting or advisory and assistance services.
A&AS.
Right, A&AS. And that signals that AFRL wants this focused purely on measurable, hard R&D deliverables, building things, testing things, proving concepts.
Yeah. So not for general support or staff augmentation.
No, this is an R&D contract, period.
That clarity really helps focus our whole deep dive. Because if they're building the ultimate R&D pipeline, the next question is obvious. What do they want to put through it?
Exactly.
So let's turn to the specific technology domains AFRL is prioritizing. They're all laid out in the contractor evaluation section.
Right. So the evaluation for any company that wants in is structured around 4 major technology domains. This is all under Volume 2 Technical Evaluation Factor 1.
And these are the areas where you have to prove you have existing verifiable performance.
Yep. The air domain, the cyberspace domain, the space domain, and then what they call cross-cutting technologies.
And it seems while you need to show experience in air and cyberspace, the document gives us this incredibly detailed, itemized list for space and for the cross-cutting areas.
It does.
Let's start with that space domain at subfactor 1.2. This feels like AFRL's orbital shopping list for the next decade.
It really is a strategic roadmap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare to see a broad contract break it down into 8 specific elements like this. You have the really foundational stuff like space access and orbital systems.
And the hardware itself.
And the hardware itself, spacecraft and satellite technologies.
Then we move into the practical engineering challenges. I see space power and propulsion.
The engines and batteries, yeah.
And right next to it, on-orbit operations and autonomy. That focus on autonomy, that's telling, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge signal. A huge one. AFRL is explicitly looking for systems that can operate independently, far beyond constant human control.
A system that can self-diagnose?
Self-repair?
Yes. Or make tactical decisions without needing an immediate command from the ground. That's where they see future dominance.
And what about the defensive and informational tech?
Well, there you have space situational awareness, basically. The ability to track everything from space debris to an adversary's assets.
Absolutely. And then they list resilient and survivable space architecture, which is all about hardening our own systems. And they finish with space environment and effects, and the one that's critical to everything: position, navigation, and timing, PNT.
Which has to work both from space and for users in space.
Exactly. It's a really comprehensive plan for securing and using that orbital high ground.
That is a powerful list for orbit. But the document makes it clear the future isn't just about one domain, it's about integration. So tell us about these 10 critical elements under cross-cutting technologies. This is where it all intersects.
This section, subfactor 1.4, this is where you see the real integration challenge. And there's a strong emphasis on the human side of the equation.
How so?
It starts with human systems integration, human-machine teaming and interfaces, and training and simulation technologies. They want the interaction between the person and the automated system to be, well, as seamless and intelligent as it can possibly be.
And then the focus seems to shift pretty heavily toward making the systems themselves faster, smarter, and more self-sufficient.
That's it, exactly. That's where you find rapid multi-domain integration, moving data and commands across air, space, cyber really fast. Then you have advanced systems engineering and integrated vehicle health management.
So systems that can diagnose their own faults and report them automatically.
Yep.
Okay, here's where I got genuinely excited. The heavy focus on the physical innovation stack right at the bottom of the list.
This is maybe the most interesting part for any manufacturers or engineers listening. They list power and thermal management, essential for advanced computing and weapons, and advanced materials development.
And then the big one.
Right. Grouping additive manufacturing, so 3D printing with materials processing and fabrication. That's key. AFRL is clearly signaling a massive push toward on-demand distributed fabrication.
Whether that's in a forward operating base or maybe even on orbit.
It could be. The message is clear. If you could build it quickly and automate its manufacturing and operation, you are definitely on AFRL's radar.
It's a staggering picture of their strategic needs.
Okay, let's shift from what they want to buy to how they plan to buy it. We need to look at the acquisition structure and the finances.
And this is where the sheer scale of this commitment really becomes clear. The solicitation uses NAICS code 541715, which is for research and development, and it has a pretty big size standard of 1,000 employees.
But the real scale is in the order limits.
Yeah, the numbers are just...
They're enormous.
They are. The minimum order is only $500, maybe for a quick little study, but the maximum order limit is an unbelievable $10 billion.
For a single item.
For a single item or a combination of items under one task order.
Okay, let's just pause on that. $10 billion.
Yeah.
For a single task order. What is the strategic implication of having that kind of purchasing power under one IDIQ? It means they are planning for programs that historically would have needed their own separate, multi-year, highly bespoke contracts. By putting that potential under AMAC, AFRL is signaling that they want to be able to fund everything from a basic material study all the way up to, say, a full-scale prototype and test of an entire satellite constellation.
All through one streamlined vehicle.
That versatility is what they're after. It's huge.
And the mechanism allows for that, right? Permitting different contract types like firm, fixed price, cost no fee.
Precisely. You need that flexibility. You can use cost no fee for that high-risk basic research where the outcome is totally uncertain, and then switch to firm fixed price once the tech is more mature. It manages taxpayer risk while still pushing innovation.
And when you're talking about taxpayer money on this scale, compliance and transparency are paramount. The document has the standard allowable cost and payment clause, but I notice a little nuance in there for small businesses.
That is such a critical detail, especially for cash flow. Clause 52.216-7 says payments are generally made no more than once every 2 weeks. But, and this is the exception, for small business concerns, they can get more frequent payments.
Which for a startup or a small R&D shop, that could be the difference between sinking and swimming.
It could be a lifeline.
Now here's where the bureaucracy gets interesting. This deviation on certified cost or pricing data linked to the Section 890 pilot program. This sounds like a change in how the DoD decides if a price is fair.
This is a major insight into the DoD's shifting strategy. Under this deviation, they're testing a new idea, basing price reasonableness primarily on the actual costs of performance from a contractor's previous DoD work.
So wait, instead of relying just on future estimates and projections, which can be speculative, they want to look at your report card, at your historical proven execution data.
Exactly. It's a move toward evidence-based pricing. It really incentivizes accurate reporting and efficiency because your past performance data will directly impact how your future task orders get priced.
So the stakes are very high for financial compliance. How seriously is AFRL taking the certification of all these costs?
Oh, extremely seriously. The certification of final indirect costs, that's clause 52.242-4, it mandates that the certification has to come from a high level in the organization.
How high?
No lower than a vice president or chief financial officer of the business segment that's submitting the proposal. They're pushing responsibility right to the top.
Okay, let's move from the cost structure to the proposal requirements themselves. This is the gauntlet that contractors have to run.
And the rules are very strict, clearly designed for efficiency. Proposals have to be electronic, sent to a dedicated mailbox, and you have to follow the proposal response guide to the letter.
And if different business units submit identical proposals,
they're immediately deemed non-responsive, thrown out.
And I love this instruction because it just cuts right through all the corporate noise. It explicitly says, elaborate brochures or documentation, binding, detailed artwork, or other embellishments are unnecessary and are not desired.
It's the ultimate statement against corporate fluff, isn't it? They just want verifiable substance. The entire evaluation hinges on demonstrated S&T prime performance. You can't just claim you're an expert.
You have to prove it.
You have to back it up with verifiable contract examples, AFRL-based contracts, cooperative agreements, grants, other transactions. The burden of proof is completely on the company to validate their own scoring.
And beyond performance, the compliance requirements draw a very hard line on national security.
This is a critical filter. Foreign firms or U.S. companies under foreign ownership, control, or influence, what's known as FOCI, are explicitly prohibited from participating. It's non-negotiable.
And there's more, right, on the software side.
Yeah, they're integrating clauses that prohibit using any software from Kaspersky Lab and any applications from ByteDance. It's crystal clear that data integrity and security are front and center here.
With this level of competition and scale, there are going to be disputes. Is there a formal mechanism to handle contractor concerns?
Yes. The document sets up an AFRL-PK ombudsman, who is usually the technical director. They're available to hear and help resolve concerns.
But it's important to understand the limits there.
Crucial. The ombudsman can't bind the agency, can't be part of the evaluation, and talking to them doesn't change any of the formal protest timelines. It's a channel, but not a loophole.
A key distinction. Okay, let's pivot from the security environment to the legal landscape that governs the outcomes of the research. Section 4, policy and data rights. Because this document isn't just buying tech, it's actively shaping the innovation ecosystem, starting with small business.
The commitment to small business is enormous. For any large business that gets awarded a spot on this contract, Volume 3 mandates a detailed small business subcontracting plan. They have to meet or exceed minimum DoD goals.
Can you just walk us through those numbers? It really puts a fine point on how they're shaping the ecosystem.
Absolutely. The overall target for small businesses is 33% of the total subcontracted value, a third. And within that, they have specific targets. 12% for small disadvantaged businesses, 8% for women-owned small businesses, 5% for service-disabled veteran-owned, and 1% for hub-zone businesses.
And they're setting up a specific pool for them, too.
Right. They explicitly state a dedicated small business pool will be established, ensuring there are set-aside opportunities ready to go.
That guarantees smaller, innovative companies get a mandatory piece of the pie. Let's talk intellectual property now. This is always the most complex part of R&D contracts. Let's start with patents. Who owns the great new invention?
That falls under a pretty standard clause, 52.22711. The contractor can choose to retain ownership of an invention made during the contract.
Got it.
There's always a but.
There's always a but. Even if the contractor keeps ownership, the government always retains a non-exclusive, non-transferable, irrevocable, paid-up worldwide license to use that invention for its own purposes.
Meaning the government paid for the research, so they always get to use the result without paying more royalties for any government purpose. Precisely. That's the balance. Now, the most potent protection is saved for data that comes out of the Small Business Innovation Research or Small Business Technology Transfer Programs, SBCCTR.
What makes that data different?
Under the DFARS Clause 252.2277018, that data gets a really robust 20-year protection period.
20 years? That's huge for a small business.
It's massive, because during those 2 decades, the government only has limited rights in technical data and restricted rights in software. The contractor keeps control over the commercial use of that data.
So that 20-year window is essentially commercial security. It lets the small business maintain its competitive edge. What happens after the 20 years are up?
After that period expires, the government gains perpetual government purpose rights,
which lets them use it, modify it, share it for any government activity, including future competitive contracts.
Correct. But, and this is still crucial, the government still can't use that data for commercial purposes. It's a very carefully structured transfer of rights over time.
So this deep dive, just into this one document, it really lays bare the scale and complexity of AFRL's strategic technology roadmap. We're seeing aggressive plans from autonomous orbital systems all the way down to on-demand 3D printing. And it's all wrapped in these layers of strict financial compliance and mandated small business inclusion.
And, the sheer volume and complexity of all those policy and data rights clauses, all the detailed rules about marking data as limited rights versus government purpose rights, it underscores this profound strategic reality.
Which is what?
That for the U.S. government, Acquiring new S&T is just as much about managing the security of intellectual property and ensuring data integrity, which is why you see those explicit bans on Kaspersky and ByteDance, as it is about actually developing the tech itself.
So this dense legal and financial structure,
Yes.
it's dictating very specifically not just what gets built, but who gets to control and own the knowledge that's generated.
Yes.
It's the legal fine print that defines the future of the entire American R&D ecosystem.
That structure is the real power move, and it's hidden right there in plain sight.
Something for you to chew on as you consider the future of military R&D. Thank you for diving deep with us.